Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We are now going to move on to our next presentation. We've got Assistant Fire Chief Drew Smith. It's going to be called Inside the Decisions, Red Flags, Shelter-in-Place, Evacuation Orders. And without any further ado, Assistant Chief Drew Smith.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Ryan, already failed. Do we have a clicker, or is it, man, I have to go manual on this? Oh, perfect. Yeah, well, I mean, Ariel had a pointer and everything. No, I don't need that. I don't think. Yeah, so thank you. Good afternoon, Drew Smith. I'm your Assistant Fire Chief for the area, and I thank all the 6 people that actually showed up compared to all the 10 people that I brought, so I didn't feel alone out here, so thank you. So just on the Ready Fest, we want to talk about emergency evacuation, how it impacts you, just an understanding that the threat is real. And I know we've had shared experience from this last Palisades fire, and we don't want some of those actions to become normalized in what we would like to see. So focusing on emergency evacuation, and really, as it states, it's a fact of life when we're dealing with the urban interbase. So as we go into the wildlands, we have some different set of vulnerabilities as compared to other areas in Los Angeles County. So I like to start with any of the information you hear today is useless unless you make it useful. You have to make it useful. So there's a lot of great information, and you have to make it useful. And a lot of it, as you can hear with our weather service partners, it's all about preparation. And we have, in the wildlands, the story has been told before time and time and time again. So what actions are we going to take to be prepared? And I know that it is a significant inconvenience for this, but it's something that's highly important that we have to take serious. So we're working on a revision for the Topangan evacuation guide. So that's coming out soon. So it's a big collaborative effort on best practice and what we'd like to see happen that's specific to Topangan Canyon. And just knowing that your fire department, your sheriff's department has a Topangan plan that we implement every time that there's an emergency, not just a wildfire. Whether we've all dealt with the flood dangers that are here with evacuations and how they look, but also on the preparedness side on what we do on the front side an event happening. And one thing is that we know that with our wildland fires, as Dr. Cohen talked about on the weather side of the house, these are all forecasted, so we know the recipe is there. One thing that is the total wild card is if we have a fire. So if we need some sort of a human intervention for that to happen. And if it doesn't, then nothing happens. And so it's just another hot, dry, windy day or extremely windy day. But it's up until that we have that human interaction to cause that fire is what gives us the end result. And on these extreme fire conditions, just know that with a PDS that is issued, it doesn't mean the fire is going to be any worse than it is on a red flag. The fire marches across the landscape relatively the same under a PDS with wind speeds at 80 plus miles an hour as they do at 25 to 35 miles an hour. In fact, you can have a more aggressive fire. Oh, hi, who brought in the horse? Holy, you laugh when I was. It's a lap dog right there, I guarantee you. Oh, is that right? What's the dog's name? He can probably do whatever he wants. What a cute dog. So that fire will march across the landscape the same at 25 to 35 miles an hour that it will at 90 miles an hour. But one thing to think about, it directly affects what our fire suppression capabilities are based upon wind speeds. We have limitations that we could use with our fixed wing aircraft, our rotary wing aircraft, and they have limitations. Can they fly? The answer is yes. But when they jettison that water to that fire line, you get that dissipation, and it all evolves around airspeed and altitude. And with that airspeed and that altitude before the waters drop to suppress that fire, you get that dissipation. So that's where it gets very challenging in high wind speeds. But just knowing that when we have these red flag events, you have the same fire progression over the landscape, and in anything over 25 miles an hour or greater, it's about the same. And actually, you could have a faster rate of spread at 35 miles an hour than you do at 80. Kind of counterintuitive, but that's the way it marches out. So just know that the communications, as you heard with our National Weather Service partners, is paramount to what we do. And we also coordinate that at the state with all the distribution of information, because when we get that information, we have all the fire agencies on, and we know how we're all staffing and who can share, how we can have a surge workforce. And one thing that it also, remember, that we started 2 years ago was our fire days at Topangan Elementary School. So my direction is I did not want any children at Topangan Elementary during a red flag event, because I didn't want to have the potential, truthfully, loss of life in a fire hazard area under red flag conditions with no evacuation component for those children. So I know it's an inconvenience, but ultimately the life safety component is what we want for our kids, and not populating that school is really good business. And I appreciate the working relationship we've had with the Topangan community to bring that to a reality, and also the school district that we work together to implement that procedure. So just with the evacuation zones, I just wanted you to know it all started in Topangan Canyon with your 9 zones. And that has been a model for the rest of Los Angeles County. And so within Division 7, or the Santa Monica Mountains, is that we have the zones that have incorporated the cities, and then with the unincorporated areas. And they're based upon population, ingress, egress. So they're not just because of geographic boundaries or hard road systems, that they have to make sense. So we worked with the Office of Emergency Management. We worked with what was Zone Haven, now it's Genesis, to create these zones. And there's a reason behind it. So know your zone is highly important, but it all started again with Topanga. So thank you with that. Very visionary. So Topanga evacuation zone, and I did this. I put in Sunset Mesa. I'm doing it. I'm sorry. They're part of us, right? So we were part of the original 9. So this is your Topanga zone. So we'll go through on how to make sure that you register, know your zone, and please, please, please identify your zone, and then have a plan as we go into, when we get to Ready, Set, Go here to talk about that. So to find your zone, you go to protect.genesis.com. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to do. It'll pinpoint where you are. And this is a great tool for information to understand what's going on. So not that anybody in Topanga ever travels. You always stay and you're in captivity here in the canyon. If you happen to go somewhere, you can go to Genesis and you can see if there's something going on that has any impact. So it's a great resource for you to go to. So I want to talk about evacuations in terminology, and just knowing that your fire agencies and emergency managers with the governor's office and Office of Emergency Services, that's Cal OES, we standardize a statewide evacuation terminology. It was developed with public safety partners, and we really looked at what best practice is. And with that, we compiled what has common terminology, because before we'd heard it's kind of mandatory, it's just a warning, it's a we're not sure, we're confused. So there's only 3 components to it that we'll go through. And they all have a different meaning. So there's an evacuation order, an evacuation warning, and shelter in place. And then as we get to the backside of an incident, we then evaluate what we're going to do with the evacuations, on how we're going to lift those, and there's a why behind it. And then we'll also talk about, I know in Topanga, we deal with soft closures, resident-only closure, and there's whys behind that as well. So an evacuation order is immediate threat to life. It is lawful order to leave now. The area is lawfully closed to public access. So one commonality, and I'm going to keep going through it and going through it. One commonality with any evacuation component is time. It is the only constant thing in our life is time. Where that fire starts and its impacts to where you're at, time is a significant value to us. And we'll go through the why here in a little bit. If we have a warning, that means you have more time. So an order is we want you to leave. We have forecasted for whatever. So the population in Topanga Canyon is around 12,000. Is it always at 12,000? No. The answer is no. It's not. We could have a lighter footprint with the residents. We could have something at 2 in the morning when we have everybody at home. So the time allotted to evacuate is going to be very different based upon where the fire starts, its rate of spread and travel to impacted areas. So we have to be proactive. If we put people in a warning, it's because the forecasted fire behavior gives us time to put certain areas that usually are touching an ordered area to a zone that is now in a warning. That is so people can take those preparatory measures and then make an informed decision. And I am highly suggesting that if you're touching an ordered area and you're in a warning, that you should probably want time on your side in case there is an unexpected change. And it may not be, believe it or not, the fire that we're fighting then. It could be a new fire. It could be, because that happens quite frequently. It really does. So when we go into an evacuation order that gets lifted, that's a formal announcement, lifting evacuation, and this has to be orchestrated. So one thing when we do an evacuation order that's lifted, it's because we have to look at different elements that the threat is gone, and it's not always about the fire. It is about what is the infrastructure that has been compromised on the road system. Is there water? Is there power? Is there potential that we have certain areas that have a significant amount of potential rock and debris that can come down until it's evaluated? So with that, on the public safety element side of the house, we have to ensure with our best practice that we can say, hey, residents can go back and be safe. Because believe it or not, when we send people back too early, we actually have some devastating outcomes in harm, injury, death when we send people back, because people try to get in a hurry to get back. And let's just say there's some common sense elements that are not used. And we have exposures for people that have had a tragedy in their lives because they tried to get back too soon. So when we do hard closures, there's a reason for that. That's when we, just for fire law to get in, we can deal with what the situation is. One of those, of course, is the fire mission. The other one's the evacuation order mission. It's the life safety mission. It is for your fire law enforcement to get into an affected area so we can combat the challenge. So as you know, it gets very congested in the road systems, and I would consider this, if this wasn't Topanga, a wide road. We know how the road systems are here. Some of them you need a shoehorn to get your car into. We know that it's tight. Those fire engines that we have are 25 feet long. They weigh 42,000 pounds, and it's like turning an aircraft carrier. So we have to navigate other cars on stuff that they shouldn't even be in the area, because it impacts what we need to do. And we can get a lot of different things going on when we're combating a wildland fire. We know that we do these soft closures. We keep everything closed down except fire alarm and critical incident resources. And those examples are, as you know, from the Palisades, that we had a significant footprint from Caltrans and our utility companies working around the clock to get those essential services back to the community. And so that's why we limit the exposure for people to come into the area so we can get that infrastructure back up and running. As you know, we have a significant, anybody ever heard about Topangan Canyon Boulevard being closed because of rock and debris? Yeah, a little bit, right? Oh, yeah. It happens all the time, and that's the consequence. A lot of times, even outside of a fire, we have slides that happen in the area. And so once we have a fire, and then we're focused with rain, that we have this that all comes off the hill, when that watershed is gone, it creates significant impacts. And I know we've had a significant amount of challenges with that. We all want the road open. Just understand that there is a why behind it, and takes a lot of partners to look and identify that risk, because ultimately we don't want this to go through the top of somebody's car and cause injury. So the residents only closure, I'm going to say that there's a lot of creativity that goes on for people wanting to get into the canyon with stuff. So I think it's great practice that we have the residents only card to limit access for what we need to do. And we look at those red flag days where we do have the residents only. And we do understand from a fire and law side that it does impact the local businesses. But one thing that we want to look at is you that live in the canyon only have access into it, so you only have access coming out of it. And that competition can be very challenging in case there is an evacuation need. So this is what I want to talk about, that it's not new, but it needs to be normalized, and there's a why behind a shelter in place. Shelter in place is highly important because it might be your safest, best option. So if you listen to what my good friend Ryan talked about with a home hardening, defensible space, and the why, a shelter in place is all focused around time. And if we can't evacuate you in enough time to get out, one thing we don't want to have happen is a hasty decision to be made. You put yourself on the road system where it's dark. It looks like it's 2 in the morning at 2 in the afternoon. You have ember cast, you got smoky conditions, you have vehicles, you have limited visibility. It is, anybody been exposed to that on their fire? It's kind of scary, and weird decisions get made. You can't navigate the road system, and we have had a significant amount of fatalities because of people self-evacuating that could have been safer in their home because they're doing their home hardening and their defensible space. And so one thing that we don't want to have is put you on a mid-slope road, and truthfully, I'll say it, I don't want you to get vaporized on the road, because that's a reality. That's why we have to do our home hardening, and we have to do our defensible space, because it might be your safest option. So when do you shelter in place? After we get the fire front, as Ryan talked about, it's not this gobbling up, advancing fire front that eats up your home. It's all the ember cast. The fire front needs to go through. Heat energy goes away. It's going to be smoky. It's going to be choky. But your structure may catch on fire, but you may then have to position yourself out and somewhere outside after the fire front that has gone through. And that, if it's already burned, it's going to be, you're going to have religious moments, I guarantee you. But that's your safest option, rather than putting yourself on a road system in the unknown that you can't see, and now you're stuck on a mid-slope road with fire all around you, is what we don't want. So it's a combined effort for both of us, for us to do the fire suppression, to do the enforcement, to do the preventable space inspections, the help with the home hardening. There's so many resources to help us, because truthfully, on how this happens, one thing with the Palisades fire, for the Topanga zones that we put in an evacuation order, had 6 hours before impact. 6 hours. We had time. That's why they went into an order. But then after in some cases, those orders weren't taken seriously. Now we have a community that had plenty of time to get out, and now we have to go into a life safety mountain based upon a poor decision at that time. Or I can't tell you how many people I've talked to after events said, I should have listened. I was scared. I thought me and my family were going to die. And we had time, but we just felt that it was okay. And we don't want to have that happen. So fires can be extremely unpredictable and fast moving. We know how fast they're going to move, but that fire environment is, Dr. Cohn and Dave talked about that fire environment, how it changes. Anytime with the weather and you put heat energy behind the amount of vegetation that's with heat energy that comes out of a mature fuel bed like we have in Topangan, alters the fire conditions significantly, and it can have rapid and explosive results. Plus, the fire environment changes once we get structures involved. It also changes the fire environment that we're trying to combat. So if a fire is approaching too rapidly for you to safely evacuate, sheltering inside your home may be the safest option rather than tempted to travel to another location. I know in past practice we've had community refuge areas that's in the old Topangan plan. Bad idea. And we'll talk a little bit about that on why here in a second. So why shelter in place? Once again, putting you on the road system. Think about your vulnerability. You know your home better than anybody else. You can tactically maneuver around your home. You can do your preventative measures at your home. You know that we're in a shelter in place. The fire hasn't impacted you, but you know you have to leave your home and you're going to have to travel to a certain location on a route, but that is not an option because we don't want you to pass the advancing fire front. That you can be at your home, you can do some mitigation work around your home, and you have to wait for the fire to burn past you. You really do. And that's all based, again on defensible space, home hardening, and the word time is only common identified in an evacuation need. Only thing that's constant. So as you're 1:30 in the afternoon, and we wish we had a road system this wide, right? In Topangan, we don't. It can be very challenging, but this is one of those fires that it gets so obscured by the sun. This is a 1:30 in the afternoon fire. This is what it looks like. So there's many tactical reasons for shelter in place, and that comes from the incident commander. We have the Genesis Connect app. We can see where the fire starts. We know its fire progression. We know that how we unify the command structure with the sheriffs, that we're going to go into an evacuation component, and then we identify this is going to be potentially a shelter in place. We'll roll this zone into an order, and we'll go there into a warning. Those are identified. Those notifications go out. We have our great law enforcement partners that go into the area and work with the evacuation component. Even if it's a shelter in place, your firefighters and your law enforcement are in the area to provide that need. And in addition to that, it's our community brigade members, and that's a multiplier to us that know the community. They're in the community. They can give us intelligence on what's going on. It is a phenomenal program for our community brigade to give us help with that organizational control for the public safety need. But not all fires are treated the same. So we had 2 fires, I think, this year. We had the one at the bottom of Santa Maria. Was it last year, I think? I forgot. The Owen fire, and we had 2 fires, right? Both of those, we had no evacuation order. We sheltered in place. Small fire, exciting, but I'd rather we didn't have the same conditions as Santa Ana. It was a routine day, July day, I think it was, in July-ish on one of them. So what do? We send our aircraft and our fire trucks to the homes for the structure defense, keep people sheltered in place, rather than them evacuating to clog up the whole road system for a fire threat that we knew that wasn't going to get over 20 to 25 acres. So not all fire is treated the same, and the tactics are significantly different on a fire that we have in May, June, July, August, September, as they are when we get in our Santa Ana wind-driven fire season in October through December. So small fire may not warrant an order. So what happens if we're all here? What do? We can't evacuate. We might have to huddle up and use this as a TRA. We might have to shelter in place here. That's why it's a shared responsibility with any places that we go and are at. We may have to, if we're at anywhere, we might be in town at the store. So just think about, you may have to get into that structure, because that's really has the highest potential to save you from being in the open, getting impacted with heat and smoke. You need that shielding from that heat energy that's going on around you. Scary to think about, but we need to talk about it and how it looks. So we don't do the public safety refuge areas. We reviewed this. It's bad practice. And at the end of the day, truthfully, and I think it might be on the next slide. Let's see here. Where it's on one of them, I forget where it's at. So what we think is safe, and we have a big open area. You may think that the ball field down there is a good place. It's not. It's not. If we have, could it be though? Yeah, if the fire is small and it's just backing down and it's giving us 4-foot flame lengths, it could be a great place to stay. But when you have these heat energy that emits an advancing fire front that travels across time, and the closer you are to that advancing fire front, it emits heat at 1,500 to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. Everybody's seen melted everything, right? What it does to your body at 200 degrees at 2 seconds gives you a second-degree burns. And so when we go tactically to fight fire, truthfully, we have the best protective gear made. We can only get so close because of that heat energy that comes out of that. So we're updating the Topanga Survival Guide, and there'll be some great information on there for how to protect ourselves and best practice for living here in Topanga. So I want to talk about here's the community center we're at. You can see the makeup, and then as comparatively speaking to Pepperdine University. Pepperdine University is the only place in the Santa Monica Mountains that is a 100% no evacuation, shelter in place at all times, because you can see the makeup in how the campus is built. Is it going to get smoky in the campus? Yep. Is a palm tree or two going to catch on fire? Yep. Is some ground cover going to catch fire? Most likely, but we're not going to kill the students if we go and have these assembly points outside in the open areas. The community center, with a population and how it's surrounding now, this is not a place that I want you to think about, hey, instead of driving out, I'm just going to go to the ball field at the community center. Because heaven forbid, if you're last, where are you going to park, right? So it's just a bad plan. It really is. So it's not advised. It's not safe. Don't advise it. Pepperdine University. And at the end of the day, just for reality, for a safety zone, for 25 people, in purity, that you have a safety zone. A safety zone is we could all stand in a safety zone dressed however we want to dress and be just fine. For 25 to 50 people, you need 14 acres. On the worst case scenario for fires that come through the Santa Monica Mountains and how fast they move and the heat energy that comes out of the fuel bed, for you to be, and it's not the lucky person in the center, by the way, it's everybody in totality. You need 14 acres so you can stand and be safe. That's what a true safety zone is. And we use those standards if we have to identify safety zones, and they're based upon different fuel types as well. So you don't need the same size safety zone if you're in the Antelope Valley in grass that's 1.5 feet tall as compared to being in the beautiful native vegetation that we have out here. For our 25 to 50 people that we may have on engines, hand crews, etc., it's about 14 acres is what you need that has pure clearance around it. So just use that as some perception. It's about 14 football fields. So as we know, ready, set, go, I'm sure that everybody, because this information is shared everywhere on everything Topanga. It really is. And once again, we have to make it useful. So we know about the survival tips, ready, set, go. That's what it means is ready, set, go. That you've done your preparations, you know exactly what you're going to do before the fire comes. You are prepared, you're set, and they say, hey, we just got an evacuation order. You go, and please follow the directions. One thing is that we're doing with our law enforcement partners at Fire Station 69, we have a Conex container that we have all traffic cones and things to manage the road system, because things that we do is we get law enforcement here to help with doing the hard closures, to start coming up with a traffic plan and giving good direction to what we need to do. And I know there's a lot of creativity that goes on, but please, when you get creative, it can challenge the things that we're doing when you get creative. So this is just as Ryan actually does a phenomenal presentation on this. So if you happen to miss it, I wish that he would loop it through again and do it again because it's so good. It's just knowing that you have to think of your home and the vulnerabilities you have. And at the end of the day, if you have something that's combustible, it's going to reach your home, you have a chance that it's going to climb through that combustible wooden fence or deck or whatever it is to get to your home and start them. It is not the advancing fire front that gobbles up these homes. It's the spotting that catches leaves in the leaf litter in the rain gutters. It's stuff that collects around your home. And even the stuff that you think you have this nice green bush, or I'll give you an example, favorite plant, bougainvillea, but inside of it, if it's old, man, there's a lot of dead material in there. Yeah, and no, we don't like Italian cypress, by the way, either. Don't like it. So with that, I'm going to pump the brakes. I have a few minutes for questions and answers. I can go on all day with this. I want to thank my community brigade that's here, and I need you to stop by their booth and support them on the great things they're doing. I also have our firefighters from Fire Station 69 that are your heroes down here. And our National Weather Service partners, because with all of us coming together to share that information, what gives you the best value in the customer service delivery and the life safety that we do. Senator Allen, how are you? You found your kids. That's good. You found them. Yes, your wife's not going to be mad now. You found the kids. That's usually a win. So if you wouldn't mind, is that Susan? Hi, Susan. Hold on, we got a mic. I have a guy that'll bring it around to you, though. Hey, Brent, grab the mic and take it. Yeah, hold on, we're videoing there, Susan. Brent, you can be the mic guy.
First of all, thank you so much to everybody that's here. I have a question. I'm sorry I didn't get it at the beginning. You may have addressed this. But everything that I have heard, you're saying, yeah, you need 14 acres, you need this, you need that, and all.
Mm-hmm.
But you are also, in terms of protocols, evacuate first, and if you can't evacuate, shelter in place. There's no home in this canyon that has what you described as necessary for protection.
You're right.
So how do you balance and justify not canceling out the one with the other? Like, you can't use the ball field, you can't do this, you can't do that, but shelter in place. Do you understand my question?
I 100% understand.
Thank you so
question.
much, and thank you for everything you did.
Yeah, of course. So there's purity on what a safety zone is. And everybody's perception of what is the safe area makes sense when it's sunny and 75 out. But in the element, so going back to Susan's question, well, how can you say that you need 14 acres, but now, Drewski, you're telling me that we got to stay in our house? And the only reason, that's the safest option. I don't want you to leave your house to where you've done your defensible space, you've done your home hardening, and put you on a road system that there may be no options for you. It is a bad position to be in. But with this bad decision, you have to have a survivable outcome with your best option, and that may be at your home. And I know how the road systems are here. I know how the ornamental vegetation is. I know how beautiful it is. I know that 340 days a year, we don't even have to worry about it. But 20 days out of the year, we do. And if we have a fire, we have to really look, how are we going to get to put ourselves in a survivable position? Because I know it is an unrealistic expectation to think that when we have a fire that we're going to evacuate 12,000 people every time there's a fire. It's unrealistic. So what do we do? And it's that shared responsibility to where we have to do our home hardening, we have to do our defensible space, and we have to look at using that as a shelter in place, which is that temporary refuge zone for us, because once again, and you think about where you live, and I bet you even have areas that you think that, oh, somebody needs to trim that tree because it's overhanging the road. The UPS truck's hitting it, or how beautiful it is. We know it is beautiful here, but we have to look for what is not a rare event. We have to look at the significant event that's going to cause us life safety harm. Susan, that's a great question. I love when you put me on point. Yes, ma'am. Tam, Brent, will you get the mic and hand it to that'll work. You can be the mic guy. Thank you, Tam.
Happy to come to the mic. Very specifically, when you talk about shelter in place, I would predict that 99% of us do not have a bomb shelter, a bunker. What specifically should we think about in the criteria? An interior room, a room without windows, the bathroom because it's got a old tub underneath the house because it's on dirt. What specific ideas can we implement to look around in our existing house, assuming with the hardening and assuming everything else, what specific guidelines can you suggest? And obviously, every house is going to be different.
Right.
Should we have water available? Should we have blankets available in whatever shelter room we're in? Should we have face masks because of smoke? You're saying the fire's going to go by, but there will be serious moments there.
Agree. That's a great question. So, right, Tam, thank you. There's a lot of different set of challenges and complexities with people's homes. So what do we look at? We look at that we don't want you to keep your windows open. We want you to keep them closed, hopefully the double pane, and move across and move your drapery out of the way so it doesn't, the polyesters or whatever they may be made out of, that heat energy, it gives potential. What's that? Ready, set, go. Okay, hold on. Now I got to think about it. Right there. Great. Now I can't read it because I didn't bring my glasses. So the components of the bathrooms are good. And the reason is there's tile. There's usually the only room in your whole house that has only so many windows as compared to your living room. But you also want to be on the lee side of the house, meaning if your fire is approaching from your house from the east, you want to usually be on the extreme opposite end of the house. You know, you also can do preparatory measures. And I'm not talking this fire is just going to come and move through. It could, but if you have time, you can. Actually, no kidding, use your garden hose, wet things down that you can. One of the things that we have done in the past on things that we do is we use a foam to foam things down. Dish soap works good. Dawn laundry detergent works good, or any detergents you do, is you can actually wet things down and make Mr. Bubble around your house in different areas. But we don't want you to combat the fire with a garden hose. We don't want that to happen. You will not win. And if you do, you're lucky. And we've had past practice, people saying that they saved their home with a garden hose. And so they normalize that that's always going to be the outcome. But what we haven't talked about is the people that tried that and the significant amount of loss of life we've had because they thought they could stay and combat it with a garden hose. We bring a lot of water to the game that pumps a lot of water with the right gear. And as you can see on these high-risk days, that water doesn't even, it does this big bend because the wind's blowing so hard. So, Tam, there's so many different questions where you should go. You need to do your preparatory stuff. You need to do your home hardening. You need to know your home better and go into an area that gives you the most adequate depth in your home from at the opposite end of where the fire is coming in and around you. Great question. I saw another hand. We can hand the mic to you. Where did my mic guy go? That's you, Mike. So somebody had their hand up. Oh, look at this. Hold on. Weather Service conference call. I just proved right here. National Weather Service conference call. So we're not doing one today, right? Okay, good. That's why I alarmed for them. I kid you not. 3 minutes before. We always do at 1 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Drew.
Hi there.
I am so glad you are talking about this differently than in 2008 when I went through the Fire Academy with MRCA and I first met you, where it was really focused on all these places, community places you could go. And the idea that I hope this revised Topanga Survival Guide has is that the fire department is not necessarily coming to save us all. This is what I focused on when I was on the TCEP board and ran the neighborhood network was, you guys, look at these tiny little roads. How many type 1 engines are there to get up these tiny little roads? And they're not coming to save you. And we learned in the San Diego fires a long time ago that even the hotshot teams could perish, right? So things have shifted, and I think I've talked to so many people over all these years who feel like the fire department is going to be there 100%, and they get complacent. So I am so glad that there's this shift, and the home hardening obviously is amazing. So thank you, and I hope it's really clear in the new revised guide.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Okay, pop quiz. How many houses in Topanga, commercial occupancy? What do you think it is? How many homes?
We have
11. Yeah, I was going to say 1,200 homes, right? Where am I going to get 1,100 fire engines? We have to we have to send resources to solve the problem. So a lot of that problem goes away if we fight the fire to put it out, because then it doesn't get any bigger. But then as it expands, we still have to combat that and all those other different challenges that come with that. And so I know that there is this, as to Rebecca's point, that there's this feel that, hey, that a fire department's going to be there, or, hey, Drew, you and your fire department failed me. I get it. But we run out of resources, and we had the most robust response with LA City Fire Department, Ventura County Fire, and our assisting agencies. Our community brigade can talk to this really well on what we put them do and what we had them perform to be a supporting force for us based upon what happened on the Palisades fire. And you'd have to hear some of their stories from where they were at after Woolsey to what they were exposed to at the Palisades, and the understanding of where they were at then, that we failed them, and where they're at now. And a big why comes to light on why things happen and how things happen on an incident. And I got 3 minutes, Ryan?
Yeah.
1 minute. Dang, I was close. That clock is slow.
I got one quick question.
Yes, sir. Keegan.
I've heard this a lot after Palisades, is this misperception that Topanga doesn't burn. And so in your opinion, why has it not burned in the bad situation yet?
Ooh, okay, not an opinion, but a fact. So, 2021 Palisades fire was the only reason it had steered and across at the 2 Mile Bridge. Only reason. That fire that happened in 21, the Palisades, shifted the advancing fire front. There was no fuel for it to burn. Shifted it across into 2 Mile Bridge. I was there. I had video of it. I can timestamp what happened. Redirected. My call firemen were up at Saddle Peak, I think, at midnight-ish? And it was just blowing through Tuna and Saddle Peak, right? We were up there. And so how that came down and then moved laterally, went across Saddle Peak and missed this, except for when we were up at, it was probably Fernwood, and where it started creeping back over, and we put the dozers in and the hand crews in on day 2. The Palisades fire of 2021 is why this didn't burn. So Topanga Canyon will burn, as our National Weather Service partners talk about. And what we know, we have the best meteorological data in fire history to know when how it's gonna look once we have the environmental recipe. But we need the fire in the right spot to make it impact here. So we got lucky on the Woolsey, very lucky on the Woolsey, that it didn't impact here. And we got very lucky, but it wasn't luck. It was because of the 2021 Palisades fire. Plus, we had tactical opportunities to engage that fire at night. And on the Palisades fire, in the first 20, 30 hours, we dropped 700,000 gallons out of 69 Bravo. Yeah. So, we never lost water. We heard that. We never lost water at 69 Bravo. We never lost power because of our emergency generators, because of the fuel modification that we did. We did our home hardening up there. We did our defensible space. That 69 Bravo never went out of service for the entire Palisades fire within the first, around at 36 hours. And most of it within the first 24 was 700,000 gallons of aircraft at a time that were coming out. 700, so that's at 1,000 gallons a piece. I'm no mathematician. 700 drops out of that thing in 24 hours. Ryan's giving me the hook. Hey, thank you. We'll be around. Thank you. Support your fire department, your community brigade. Ryan says I can't. We'll talk offline. Thank you.